a.m. I guess people thought I was joking or thought I forgot when I said I was going to do the 1 year anniversary video. And basically, this is what I'm doing the 1 year anniversary video of basically the Dallas massacre, or should I say, you know, the the Bud Saw massacre, because Bud basically was like a chainsaw the way he beat down Errol Spence. It was like, you know what I'm saying? It was like, it was like a civil rights movement, equal rights. Because I mean, Errol Spence saw equal rights, lefts, uppercuts, top of his head, chin, eye, and you know, it was what we thought was going to be a classic epic fight along the lines of Sugar Ray Leonard, Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran 1 and 2, Marvin Hagler, you know, Thomas Hearns, Roberto Duran, where we was gonna see a classic memorable fight that had like great moments. But instead, it just turned out to be a one-sided beatdown in favor of Terrence Crawford. Basically, he didn't beat the brakes off of Errol Spence. I mean, he beat the brakes, the transmission. I mean, he beat the oil out of him. I'm talking about, it was just like a one-sided beatdown. And the funny thing is, building up the fight, starting back in 2018, when Terrence Crawford made his debut at welterweight. And there always was the talk of building up this fight. But who would think the fight wouldn't happen for like pretty much 5 years? Now, we have to take into account what happened in 2020. But the fight could have happened in 2021. It could have happened in 2022, but it was always hurdles. It was roadblocks. It was just people flat out interfering, and at the end of the day, just going back in time, just thinking about what happened with Terrence Crawford, and now people trying to act like they cool with Terrence Crawford now. But, a lot of people acted like a bunch of bitch ass niggas, leading up to this fight. They really couldn't put their emotions in check. They really were attacking people, wanted everybody to be Errol Spence fun boys, and got an attitude if anybody didn't be an Errol Spence fun boy. And, you had people to the point to where they were trying to disrespect people, talking crazy, making fake threats. Then when they saw the person in person, didn't do jack shit, but have their lips poked out like somebody that got their ice cream took away from them by their mama or their daddy, or was told that they couldn't go outside and play. So, it is what it is. And then you had a lot of people that were tearing down Terrence Crawford. At the end of the day, it's okay to say that the guy that you rooting for was going to win the fight. But then you had a lot of people just get too personal with Terrence Crawford. Not talking about him getting in trouble with the law, but just saying personal stuff that shouldn't have been said. Then you had people trying to insinuate very, very personal stuff about Terrence Crawford, trying to insinuate stuff. But then at the end of the day, they need to look at themselves, because it's a question of whether they were doing the same thing that they were trying to insinuate Terrence Crawford was doing. But we're not going to go there. But leading up to the buildup, in between, to just see how people got divided, and then you got people trying to act like they cool with the situation. But you had a lot of niggas on here instigating, trying to question people's blackness if you didn't support Errol Spence and all this stuff, talking about you had people trying to negotiate, talking about how much Terrence Crawford should get and all this stuff, like they actually a promoter, like they've ever promoted fights and all that kind of stuff. Basically didn't even know what the hell they were talking about. But now they trying to act like they wasn't part of it. And it's a lot of people. And I'm not sneak dissing nobody. I mean, if you want me to say your name, I'll say your name, because I'm not afraid of anybody. But you know who you are. There was quite a few people doing this stuff, playing these games. And it was terrible. The 5 years leading up to the fight, it was terrible. It was horrible. All I wanted to do was just see the fight. At the end of the day, I never gave a prediction who I thought was going to win the fight. I always thought in my heart of hearts that I saw it when I went to see Terrence Crawford fight Jeff Horn. I saw it when he made his welterweight debut at 147. I was at that fight with Jeff Horn, and I saw Terrence Crawford like annihilate Jeff Horn with ease. And that showed me right then and there, I say Terrence Crawford can beat Errol Spence. I knew right then and there that fight, Terrence Crawford's debut at 147, and how he manhandled Jeff Horn. Then, of course, you had the Terrence Crawford detractors trying to say, oh, well, Jeff Horn is a nobody, but, he lost to, he really lost to Pacquiao. No, he didn't. But that's what you had. You had a lot of the Spence fun boys trying to tear down Terrence Crawford's accomplishments. And we all knew that the fight got stagnant because of one particular guy, which is Al Heyman. We all know Al Heyman held up the fight. We all know that Al Heyman did not want to make that fight, but Al Heyman was pressured to make that fight. The fight could have got made in 2022, when we all know now who was the guy who was going to invest in the fight. All along, it was Turkey Al-Sheikh. He was going to put up the money for the fight to where both of those dudes were going to get paid handsomely. And you heard this stuff. You had the Al Heyman fanatics sit up there. Oh, well, Al not going to let anybody touch it and all this kind of stuff. Al didn't even want to make the damn fight. Al constantly tried to lowball Terrence Crawford. They was acting like there wasn't any money to make this fight. And I think deep down inside, Al Heyman didn't think Errol Spence could beat Terrence Crawford. I think in his heart of hearts, I always knew. I never picked a winner, but I always knew that Terrence Crawford was going to beat Errol Spence if they fought. I thought it would be a little more competitive than what it was. And, I'm just having fun, at the end of the day. I hope Errol Spence is okay. I am concerned for where he is as a fighter. And, I only do this stuff because I just like to, just screw with a lot of the people that were, basically attacking anybody that supported Terrence Crawford, trying to call him a coon and all that kind of stuff, which is absolutely absurd. It was absurd. And then these dudes had the audacity to try to call themselves pro-black, more like pro-whack. And some of these dudes had the audacity to have the title black in front of their, in front of their channels. The opposite, it should have been whack instead of black. Quite a few people like that, trying to act like they was on that tip, but they wasn't. Because the real coons were the people that were tearing down Terrence Crawford. And that's it, that's all. And I stand on that. But just leading up to the fight, and I just cannot grasp what I saw. It was horrible. Leading up to, it was agonizing seeing the stuff. And I spoke on it several times, how I was disgusted with the black community, how they were acting towards, in particularly, Terrence Crawford. They'll try to say, well, Terrence Crawford said this about Errol Spence and all this stuff. Well, what about what they said about him? It was like Republicans and Democrats. Now, I'm neither. Because, Democrats are known for talking about using scare tactics and talking about what somebody do and they're this and that, they're that. And then when you start to, go down their resume, then all of a sudden they want to play stupid. They want to play I don't know what you're talking about. What you talking about, man? I don't know what you talking about. My thumbnail is what? I was just my thumbnail is just a thumbnail. It's just a thumbnail, man. I just decided to put something together. I just wanted to be something clever. I have no idea what you're talking about. So, you know, but just leading up to everything. Um, it was just crazy. It was just crazy. The personal attacks, people attacking me, people calling me a coon, people making threats towards me, which I don't know. It wasn't even that serious. You actually had people threatening content creators over the Terrence Crawford Errol Spence situation. And the funny thing was I supposed to be scared? Was I supposed to be scared? I'm always at fights. Can't say you don't know what I look like because I didn't show my face. It was just the stupid stuff leading up to it, and people got real personal. People saying little slick shit about people, and then I ignored it. It was a few people saying little slick shit like somebody was scared of them, and I just laughed at the notion that somebody thought that I would be scared of them. Like, what you making threats for? What you making threats for? What you threatening people? And to see the degenerate, deplorable behavior of black people over this. Like I said, if you was an Errol Spence fan, that's fine. Terrence Crawford fan, that's fine. But to sit up there and question somebody's blackness over this, like, that was nuts. Oh, it was worse than it was worse than that. It was nuts. It was nuts. So then 2018 passed. Okay, we know we got to let the fight build up a little bit. 2019 comes. Nothing happens. 2020, we will excuse 2020 because we know what happened. 2021, things start to get back to normal. Then you start saying, okay, it's time to make this fight. But you start seeing people procrastinating. It was people trying to negotiate on behalf of Errol Spence, talking about that Bud need to take 2080 and all this kind of stuff. And it was just laughable. And then when you look at Errol Spence's resume, Errol Spence's resume ain't that far different than Terrence Crawford, because at the end of the day, Errol Spence was fighting in-house fighters. Errol Spence didn't fight outside the PBC banner. And then the thing is, Terrence Crawford tried to fight everybody that Errol Spence fought, and there was always some kind of roadblock. And this is why I don't respect Al Heyman. And then when you called Al Heyman out, people were saying, why are you attacking Al Heyman? He's a black man. Al Heyman do not give a damn about black people. He don't give a damn about the black community. Al Heyman sat up there and paid Conor McGregor $100 million, or almost $100 million, who never had one professional boxing match in his life. Conor McGregor is still eating off that money he made in that Floyd Mayweather fight. Conor McGregor made more money that night than he ever made in his UFC career. Conor McGregor made more money than what most boxers made in their entire career. But I'm supposed to be okay with that. But then none of these fake ho-tip niggas was saying anything about that. So, it is what it is what it is. It is what it is. And I called it out. Of course, I got attacked, but I came with facts. So, once again, you wondering why Al Heyman don't want to pay Terrence Crawford, why he doesn't want to make this fight. We go to 2022. Everything is fully open now. Everything is fully open. The fight could get made. Once again, procrastination. Then finally, 2023 comes around. After hearing all the pump fakes, you finally get a date. You finally get a location. And the excitement starts to happen. It's official. Then you finally get prepared for this fight. But then to a certain degree, it may have lost a little bit of its luster because it took too long to make this fight. So finally the fight happens. Bell rings. Errol Spence starts off strong. But, you know, Terrence Crawford is trying to calculate and think what Errol Spence is doing. And then Bud, to a certain degree, I thought Bud did enough to win the first round. Some people had Errol Spence winning the first round. And then the second round comes, and then Terrence Crawford becomes Terrence Crawford. He drops Errol Spence with a perfect jab. Errol Spence goes down, and then you could just tell what's about to happen. And then it's basically an onslaught from beginning to end, a domination. Terrence Crawford ends up stopping Errol Spence in a very unsuspenseful, one-sided fight. And all the Terrence Crawford haters have to eat their words. And some of them won't eat their words. They got excuses. They're hollering about the car accidents and all this kind of stuff. Then you got people, instead of, you know, the Terrence Crawford detractors just giving him his props, you have another goofy nigga basically accused Terrence Crawford of cheating. You heard every excuse that can be made. From Terrence Crawford's had loaded gloves to where he was on roids and all that kind of stuff, instead of people just giving the man his just due. Wasn't nothing wrong with Errol Spence when he fought Danny Garcia. Wasn't nothing wrong with him when he fought Ugas. But you just heard excuse after excuse, and I knew this was going to happen. And then, you know, me, basically, I really didn't rub it in that much, but, you know, I spoke to some people. And then, you know, to a certain degree, somebody tried to say something slick, as usual. Hey, what's up? Instead of giving Bud his props, you heard excuse after excuse after excuse. You know, you had the least attorney, you had a couple of other people, you had John Coffey, you know, you just had a couple of other people refusing to give Terrence Crawford his props. They looked so stupid because they was just so surprised. A lot of these niggas was so surprised on how Errol Spence got the brakes beat off of them. So then they started to get mad at the people that supported Bud. They started talking out the side of their ass. Like I said before, I mean, it wasn't that serious. The fight came and went. Errol Spence had the right to exercise a rematch. He didn't exercise his right to a rematch, which was smart. And now, a year later, Errol Spence hasn't been seen. And the last time you saw Errol Spence, he did not look like he was in fight shape. Errol Spence was supposed to be coming back to fight in October. Looked like that's not going to happen. So we'll have to see. And then you starting to see, here we go again with the PBC and their stall tactics, trying to basically hold belts hostage. You got Fundora, who basically beat Tim Tszyu and basically he had a broken nose, and for some reason he wasn't able to fight until November, which, you know, reports say you could recover from a broken nose. Worst case scenario is 3 weeks, which means he could have clearly fought. You know, he could have clearly fought in the summer, but this is what the PBC do. They play these games. They like to hold belts hostage. And then Mauricio Solomon, he's just so wishy-washy when he call himself trying to lay down the law. He said, you know, saying, oh, well, we pushed the date back. Allegedly, they're saying that they pushed the date back to like maybe December, which from what I was told, that's not going to fly. That Fundora still has to negotiate with Terrence Crawford immediately, or he'll be stripped of the belt. So we'll just have to see. But well, it's a lot going on with the PBC. You've been hearing the reason why they can't do one of those deals with Turkey Al Sheikh is because basically a lot of the fighters see, PBC is supposed to be a TB program. But see, the reason why Al Heyman doesn't get, you know, caught up in the Muhammad Ali Act, acting as a advisor and a manager, because he doesn't have what you would call, quote unquote, a promoter's license. So basically he uses all these other people. He used to use Lou DiBella for fights. He used Samson. He used the other people. And then he let these fighters like co-promote under their own name. So that's how he doesn't get accused of acting in the Muhammad Ali Act, when to a certain degree he does. So it's kind of complex, but then it isn't complex of what's going on. But that's how he gets around the Muhammad Ali Act. Yeah, I'll find that. Well, I'll find that kind of peculiar, but I think that's Showtime and the PBC who don't want to play the fight in its entirety, because most of the fights are in their entirety. But due to the fact that the fight was such a one-sided beatdown, you know, Terrence Crawford ruined a lot of plans, because what was supposed to go on, they wanted to skip past Terrence Crawford. But, you know, Errol Spence was catching a lot of flack from people in his hometown saying that he was scared of Terrence Crawford. So he fought Terrence Crawford out of pride, and I give him credit for that. He fought him out of pride, and it didn't go well in his favor. That's all that happened. He fought him out of pride, and he got the pride beat out of him, because Al did not really want to make that fight. He was going to try to get Errol Spence. What it was, he wanted to get Errol Spence basically a fight with Keith Thurman, possibly at 154. And then his plan was to possibly fight one fight at middleweight and then try to get Errol Spence to fight Canelo. And then that was going to be, I guess, Errol Spence's retirement fight. But now it looked like Terrence Crawford is going to get that fight, and I'm loving every minute of it. I'm loving every minute of it. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm really concerned. I have to say this, and this is just real talk. I'm a Terrence Crawford fan, but I'm really concerned for him in that Canelo fight, because at the end of the day, Canelo may be the same height as Terrence Crawford, but he is bigger than Terrence Crawford. But at the end of the day, this is going to say a lot about Canelo. If Canelo, you know, Turkey Al Sheikh says he's going to talk to Canelo. To me, Canelo going to look bad if he takes this fight one way or another. because at the end of the day, they're gonna say you fought a dude that basically just a year ago, if they can get this fight made in 2025, they're gonna say you fought a dude just 2 years ago, fought at 147, and basically moved up 3 weight classes in a year and some change just to fight you. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you, Will. Whatever happens with Terrence Crawford and listen, it's a lose-lose situation for Canelo if he fights Bud, and it's a win-win situation for Bud if Bud wins that fight. If Bud finds a way to beat Canelo, now I would be comfortable if they found some common ground with the weight. But here's the thing. I'm gonna tell you something. At this point, do Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez make any sense? Because here's the thing. Canelo isn't undisputed anymore because the IBF took one of his belts because he decided to fight Edgar Berlanga. So does that fight really have as much meaning as it could have had? Let's say Terrence Crawford went up, fought Canelo, and he found a way to beat Canelo, and he became undisputed at 168. Me myself, if I just don't like that fight because I just think Terrence Crawford is going to be giving up too much weight. You seen what happened with Jamel Charlo going up two weight classes to fight Canelo. And I'm still trying to figure out what culture he did it for, because he definitely did do it for the black culture. Please don't attach that to us. I don't know what culture, what culture you talked about, my dude. So I'm just saying. I'm just saying. What culture was you talking about, my dude? Like what culture, bro? What culture? What culture? I'm really trying to figure out what culture you but nevertheless, so that's what I'm saying. Then you look at Jaime Mugia, but then again, Jaime Mugia, I'm gonna keep it 100, and I give Jaime Mugia for not using that as an excuse. Jaime Mugia went in that fight injured. Jaime Mugia went in that fight injured. So this is what I'm saying, why I'm worried about that. Canelo will just it'll just be a weak move. Because people gonna say you fought Terrence Crawford, but you didn't want to fight David Benavidez. And Canelo fans been real quiet because they can't talk their way out of this. They can't talk their way around this. There's no reason for him to be fighting Edgar Berlanga. Edgar Berlanga can sit up there and talk about he gonna shock the world and to all these haters and all that kind of stuff. Man, check this out. We all know what's gonna happen to Edgar Berlanga. Edgar Berlanga is gonna get the living shit beat out of him. He gonna get beat down. He gonna probably get stopped. He gonna get dropped a couple of times. And that's probably it. I wouldn't be surprised if Canelo stops Edgar Berlanga around the 8th round because he just don't have the experience. You look at Edgar Berlanga's resume as god awful, and then Canelo has the audacity to sit up there and say, who has David Benavidez fought, or what has he done to get a fight with me? Well, how in the hell Edgar Berlanga get a fight with you, Canelo? What has he done to get a fight with you? And then you get fighters that'll say, well, I don't believe fighters are scared of each other. Well, I disagree with that. I think to a certain degree, fighters are scared of certain fighters. No, not that I know of. Listen, the sanctioning bodies are full of shit. They rank who they want to rank. I challenge anybody to look at Edgar Berlanga's resume and tell me and try to justify him getting a fight with Canelo other than David Benavidez. Listen, I would have been okay if Canelo would have fought David Morrell. I would have been okay with that. I wouldn't have said too much. But I don't even think Canelo want no smoke with David Morrell. I don't think he want no smoke with him. David Morrell is one of them dudes that's getting better each fight as each fight happens. We definitely gonna see what he looking like. We definitely gonna see what he looking like on Saturday. He gets better every fight. Now, if Canelo was fighting him, I would be okay with Canelo fighting him. But Edgar Berlanga, like, why? How? Nobody can explain this, but this is what we've been saying about Canelo for the longest. Canelo has always been a cherry picker. Canelo will fight this dude. But he won't fight. He may fight that dude, but he won't fight the dude. And that's the problem. He don't fight the dude. And then what makes it even more annoying, they'll have people, his fanboys, sit up there and say, "Oh, Canelo has balls of steel, and Canelo always takes on the toughest challenge." Since when? I could sit up here and get on my computer right now and look up Canelo's box rec and just look at his last few fights. Very questionable. Like I said before, who asked for a fight with Edgar Berlanga? Who asked for a Jamel Charlo fight? Who asked for a John Ryder fight? Who asked for a third fight with Triple G? That are 4 fights right there that nobody was checking for. I understand Caleb Plant, undisputed. And then the funny part about it was Canelo was struggling with Caleb Plant. He caught him late in the rounds and got him up out of there. And then he got beat down by Dimitri Bibble for shizzle, my Bibble. But got beat down. I mean, that was like a one. I mean, Bibble like thoroughly dominated Canelo just with a basic 1-2 in and out jab. He just overwhelmed Canelo. Like I said, if Bibble, I'll keep telling you, if Bibble would have really turned it up a notch, he probably could have stopped Canelo. Now, this goofy ass nigga got mad at me, some Canelo fanboy. He got mad at me because I said that. But I'm just telling the truth. Bibble had his way with Canelo. I really think he could have stopped Canelo if he would have really like turned it up a notch. But Bibble, he played it safe. And he got the unanimous decision, even though it was way too close to my liking. All 3 judges had Dimitri Bibble winning that fight 7-5. What 5 rounds did Canelo win in that fight? Canelo, at best, many observers that saw that fight, at best, thought Canelo may have won 3 rounds. 3. So technically, it should have been 9-3 Bibble. And some people had Canelo only winning 2 rounds. So I'm trying to figure out what. And then when they read the judges' scorecards, if I'm not mistaken, 2 of the judges for some reason gave Canelo like the first 4 rounds. Like, what? So, I mean, there you have it. But the thing is, if he fights Bud, I don't know how he's going to get away with this. So if he wins, let's just say he does win, people gonna be like, well, okay, he was 3 weight classes above you pretty much. He fights at 154, he still has to jump up 2 weight classes. And I'm not counting one fight at 154. It's basically jumping up from welterweight to super middle. I mean, come on, man. Let's just keep it a buck. There's no way you're gonna be able to justify Canelo taking a fight like that. Do I believe Bud has the skills to win the fight? Yeah, I do. But the problem is this is gonna be a dangerous fight for Bud just off Canelo's pure size. So that's what I'm worried about. But anyway, you guys, appreciate y'all being here. I gotta shut it down. Come back more later on. Appreciate you guys. Man, fuck that nigga.